And here, we'll be doing a blind reaction, continued reaction to Illness of Justice, Crusader, Beauty for a Turn of Battle. Case 2, Episode 3, Trial. I honestly don't fully remember what's going on in this. I think it had to do with that Turning Page cult kid who was accused of murdering either dad or some other guy. Kind of weird, but okay. It's obviously a Brony thing. Recommended by Shin Manu. I think I got that name right. I'll put the description down below about where this video is from, because yeah, this one's over 2 hours long, so I'm cutting it in half because holy crap. Oh, this is gonna be a long one, so I guess we'll just get to it. Then I have to go back and do the whole damn thing because I need to add clips to it. So I like adding clips. So that's the end. Mayor. That reminds me of Transformers when that one guy was shaking hands with Obama.
Okay.
Oh, it's Athena talking to herself.
No big deal.
Yeah, I talk to myself all the time. Well,
like any other.
Except with magic, and 2 kids.
I love her robot thingy.
And no help from Phoenix or Apollo.
Legit. Can you say something positive for a change?
We're all gonna leave.
This trial will be anything but a cakewalk.
Why do I keep you on all the time?
You need someone to talk to.
There you are. Where have you been all
I like how they have their
We were
mouths
looking
moved.
everywhere for you.
Sorry, Twilight. I got up early to run a few laps around the castle. As soon as I
I
was
think
done, I rushed over here.
G5 Twilight's pretty much
But
dead.
you were already up late last night.
Of course I've been up all night. Not because of caffeine, it was insomnia. I couldn't stop thinking about coffee. I need a nap. Coffee time!
How many hours did you actually sleep?
About 3, I'd say.
When I have mine,
Hi, I'm Al Harrington, President and CEO of Al Harrington's wacky-waving inflatable arm-flailing tube-man emporium and warehouse.
Did you
I
at
hate
least get something
advertisements.
to eat?
I wish the people
I
who
had
invented them
something
would
to drink after
die.
my laps. Nothing like some freshly squeezed orange juice after a good workout.
Just don't let Applejack hear that.
What was that?
Nothing.
Trust me, Twilight. This is nothing out of the ordinary for Athena.
It's
Not
kind of
exactly
your
a
mouth
great
movement is
idea
kind of
to tire
weird.
yourself out before the trial even starts, though, is it?
Hey! At least I'm getting some exercise, Mr. Overnight Instant Noodles and Comics.
It's called manga, and it's art.
I call it manga.
You two could learn a lot from me. I always make sure I'm well rested before a performance. Just to be safe.
It's just kind of weird how their mouths
There's
move.
a lot
It's
more on the line with this.
a little too
than
animated.
Lucy.
You're still worried about defending both Scootaloo and Turning Page, aren't you?
Oh, it's Turning Page, okay.
Yeah. Just
He's
a
accused
little.
of something. I kind
But
of
I'm
forgot what.
fine. I'm just a little on edge, you know?
Well, don't worry, Athena. I'm going to be right there with you throughout the trial.
You're right. Thanks again, Twilight,
Can we
for
get to the
agreeing
trial,
be
or are
my
we just
aide.
gonna chat?
No problem, Athena.
I'm certainly gonna need the help, that's for sure.
Speaking of those kids, where are they? They should have been brought here by now.
Apparently, the prosecutor wanted to have one last conversation with them before the trial started. They should be here anyway.
So they don't
Hopefully
talk too much?
soon. The trial's about to start.
Most trials you're not allowed to talk without.
Did you
approval.
manage to get any info about the prosecutor?
No.
Wait, they didn't even tell you?
No.
She
they didn't.
should. She's the freaking
Sorry,
princess.
Athena.
Huh? For what?
For not being able to find out who the prosecutor is. I gave you my word that I would, after all.
Twilight, it's okay, really. I mean, it's not like it would make that much of a difference, right? The second
Maybe
we
it
walk
would.
through those doors, we're gonna find out exactly who the
I don't
prosecutor
do
is
much for
anyway.
trials because they're
You
boring
did
as
the
hell
best
and
you
stupid.
could, Twilight.
2 years in the state prison. Ah, man, that is bogus. Another outburst like that, and I'll extend the sentence. Okay, 3 years.
That was a sneeze.
4 years.
I'm sorry.
5 years.
You douchebag.
All right, 3 years it is.
Twilight, that's all anyone could ask for.
They're not even fair trials.
Good morning, every pony. Especially to you, Princess Twilight.
Turning, there's no need to bow to me, really.
Get used
What do
to
you
it.
mean? Of course there is.
You're gonna be
taking
the
time out of
future
your
ruler of
busy
the
schedule
Questro.
to help defend Miss Scootaloo and me. I'm eternally grateful, Princess.
Wait, how did you know I was assisting the defense?
Man.
Well, it was the prosecutor. They told us to be aware of your presence today.
Why does it always feel like we're being left in the dark? We don't know.
I don't think
anything
trolls
about
are supposed to do
prosecution,
that.
But somehow they already know about us? And they told Turning and Scootaloo?
Miss Sykes? Princess Twilight?
Yes, Turning?
I have a request. I want you both to focus on Miss Scootaloo. I don't care what happens to me, but you must defend Scootaloo no matter what. She's innocent. I know it.
I honestly don't know what
Worst comes to
she's
worst,
guilty of.
Let me take
Like I
it
said, I didn't
and just say
look
her.
back, so I have no idea what the heck's going on.
Turning, no!
What
Do
did
you
you say?
realize what'll happen if we do that? If you're found guilty, you'll be banished from Equestria.
I know that.
What is he being accused of?
But that's a price I'm willing to pay. If it means Miss Scootaloo is saved.
He's absolutely serious about this.
Defend me if you must. But just know that if I think things start to look bad, I won't hesitate to confess if it means saving her.
No! You're innocent too! You can't throw your life away just for me, Turning! I won't let you!
He loves you too much.
Think of your mom. She just lost your dad after all. If you end
Yeah,
up
oh yeah, I think he was accused of killing his dad.
She'll be fine. Besides, she'd understand. Sometimes
Also, you're a
sacrifices need to be
kid.
made.
You
It's
should
my
really
duty
have someone
as a
defending
future
you.
member of the Royal Guard. If even one life is spared, no matter whose, I'd have no regrets. Don't worry, Scooby.
But you're like, what,
If what the
5?
prosecutor said
8?
is true, then we shouldn't have to worry at all. I'm just stating this as a last resort, in case things don't go according to plan.
Right.
This mystery prosecutor is making secret plans with the defendants as well? You know what? I'm not gonna just stand there twiddling my thumbs. It's time for some answers.
Killing me for some reason.
Alright, just who exactly is the prosecutor? And what
He
exactly
could literally
did they
be
feed you
anyone. Maybe it's the princess, I don't know.
I'm sorry, Miss Sykes, but we were told not to tell you anything about the prosecutor's identity or plan.
Why?
Seriously?
What's the deal? Why are they being so secretive?
I don't know, but it's starting to get on my nerves.
Because they really want you to lose.
Turning!
That's why
You
trials
guys
are
doing
full crap. Let the people decide fate
fine,
for other
Apple
people.
Bloom.
I am. Thank you for asking.
Hey, Squirt! You doing okay?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I just
Stashy.
can't believe I'm going on trial.
Yeah, it feels pretty crazy, huh?
Yeah,
It's
you've been
okay,
on
though.
one.
You made it through the worst part. All you gotta do now is sit tight and wait for Athena to prove that you didn't do it.
I'm glad you've all come out to support Scootaloo and
Didn't
Turning.
do, I guess, cause someone to die, I guess. I don't
Most
know.
of us, darling. A certain some pony didn't want to get out of bed today. I practically had to drag her to the courthouse.
Don't you dare embarrass me. Fine, I'll drag you inside.
It's
Oh.
sweet battle.
Well, that makes sense, I guess. She was feeling sick yesterday, wasn't she?
No idea. Again, it's been a long time, so I have no idea what's going on.
She doesn't seem like she's ill at all.
Hello? Be quiet.
She's probably just
Miss
depressed.
Sykes, what's going on?
You see...
Ladybell didn't want to help us investigate the case. What?
No, that's... Oh,
Thank you, Widget.
Sweetie Belle? What's this about?
Oh, no! It's not like that at all! It's not like I don't want to help. I'm just so sure that Scootaloo is innocent, and I know that Princess Twilight and Miss Sykes
You're
will be able to
terrible
prove it without
liar.
my help.
Sweetie,
that's how it works, right?
Children are terrible
In court,
liars.
the truth will come out no matter what.
When you're an adult, you become a professional
You didn't
liar.
even want to try and help, though.
That's what we humans are good
Bill,
at doing.
what are you talking about? We're the Cutie Mark Crusaders. We do everything together, and that includes helping each other out no matter what. We've had each other's backs ever since we started looking for our cutie marks. That's the whole reason why we're friends in the first place. So why aren't you helping now? I
Did something guilty.
Apple Bloom? Sweetie Belle? I know this is a rough time for y'all, but this ain't the time or place to be having this discussion.
I want to help Scootaloo. Really, I do. But considering what she did, I didn't want to get in the way and make things worse. Like you did. What's that supposed to mean?
Sweetie Belle, apologize to Apple Bloom.
What are you talking about, Sweetie Belle? What did I do? You know what
Yeah.
you did! You stole some fabric from Carousel Boutique the other night! You went into the forest and gave it to Diamond's Yard Silver Spoon, didn't you? In exchange for your scooter?
Girls, that's enough. This ain't...
Wait a minute. Sweetie Belle, how did you know that Scootaloo stole the fabric in the first place?
Guess the trial has already begun.
Yeah, how did you know about that?
And he's gone.
What are you hiding from us, Sweetie Belle?
Rainbow, that is quite enough.
No! She's clearly keeping quiet about something. And
Yeah.
if it can help Scootaloo, then she needs to tell us.
You need to calm
She
down,
probably
Rainbow. You're not helping any
someone or
pony by
something.
scaring Sweetie Belle.
I just knew, alright? Something didn't seem right
I
when
thought you
Tony
ran
showed up
out.
in the middle of the night to say hello, so I figured something was up. I checked around the boutique after he left and noticed one roll of golden silk was missing. That's all!
See, there you go, Rainbow. A
So is it
perfectly
Rarity supposed to be
reasonable
pissed off?
explanation.
Because it's hers.
I don't buy it. Look at her. She's shaking like a leaf. I think she's still hiding something.
Probably
Now
is.
tell us what happened. You followed them there, didn't you?
Rainbow, back off.
Why? She does have info.
Look, I need to go! I'll see you all in there, okay? Sweetie Belle!
And she's off again.
I'll go after her. But you and I are going to have a serious talk later, Rainbow Dash.
Rarity, you should be more pissed off than Rainbow.
Consarn it, Rainbow.
I know you're dealing with a generosity, but stealing is stealing.
What a mess.
I shouldn't have said that. I should not have said that.
I just don't get it.
Yeah, I have
Why would
Asperger's. I say
Sweetie
what I
Belle
feel.
doubt Scootaloo?
I would have said way more.
Aren't they all good friends?
They are. But I don't know.
Even
But there's
close
also
friends
no
could still
really
doubt
friends
each other.
in my life. I don't really talk to
But
people much.
not typically without a very good reason.
If I could have everybody's attention, the trial is about to begin. Will the defendants and their attorney please make their way into the courtroom?
And no horsing around.
Boo!
Here we go. Deep breaths, Athena.
Bobs, sweaty!
Don't worry, you've got this. Remember to focus and you'll be able to prove your client's innocence.
Just
He kind of looks
believe
like
in yourself.
that
Okay?
Thanks, you guys.
Hero Academia, that
I
main
know this
hero
is a
guy
big step for you as a lawyer,
that does the
but
American
we all start somewhere.
punch and
It's
kick
time
thing
for you
or
to take
whatever.
that next leap forward.
I haven't seen
I'm confident
that
you'll
in a
succeed.
while.
You'll always have my full support.
I don't watch it
Pause.
anymore because it's getting too dark.
We got this.
I
Right,
don't know why
Twilight?
Japanese people like watching their
Of
children
course, Athena. Now, let's go.
decapitated and stuff like that. Japanese are weird people. I guess they just love watching children die. Or get tortured or whatever. That's what they do for fun. Very colorful. Even with these goggles on, that looks very colorful.
Court is now in session for the trial of Scootaloo and Turning Page.
Still, that
Are the prosecution and defense ready?
It's kind of weird.
That's weird. The prosecution is missing. Wait, why is the judge still here?
Prosecution, defense. Are you ready?
Be one of the royal
Yes,
sisters.
Your Honor. But,
be the judge.
you're still here then?
You didn't think I'd go straight back home, did you? I figured I'd just take a short vacation in this wonderful world.
Is it really a vacation if you're still working?
I truly do love it here in Equestria. After I'm done with today's trial, I plan on doing some sightseeing for a few days before I head back home. I know I said I wasn't interested before, but I'm thinking of checking out that race Prince Blueblood mentioned. I'll admit I don't have much experience with them, but I suppose it could be fun to watch. Princess Twilight, if you know of any other sights I could catch in Equestria, I'd greatly appreciate
conversation after the trial.
I'll let you know, Your Honor.
So, why are you here exactly, Your Honor? In court, I mean.
Well, actually, it was Princess Celestia who asked me to preside over this trial.
She do the trial?
Wait, Princess Celestia asked you? Why?
Maybe he's a
I'm sorry, Miss Sparkle, but I'm afraid I don't have that answer. The letter I received simply asked if I would be willing to preside over the trial, and I agreed.
That's odd. Wasn't that supposed to be one of Princess Celestia's responsibilities?
Yeah.
The only reason she wasn't the judge for the previous trial
We've
was because
seen what she
Twilight
does with her life.
specifically
She really
requested
doesn't
it.
do much.
But that doesn't seem to be the case this time.
I mean, she does
Just
check
what is going on
fairs,
here?
whatever that is.
In any case, we should get started with the trial. Prosecution, I have still yet to hear your answer. Are you ready?
Forget hearing their answer. I'd settle for just seeing them.
If the prosecution is not prepared, then it would appear that I will have to postpone the trial until they arrive. Very
Who's
well.
late?
Court is...
Hold it! My apologies, Your Honor. The prosecution is ready.
Hey, it's Luna.
About time. Huh? Wait. She has wings and a horn? Does that mean...
Oh?
She's
And
the
who
Brody's
might
favorite.
you be?
I am Princess Luna. A pleasure to meet you, Your Honor.
You don't sound like her.
Princess?
Ah, yes. I do
I mean, it would
recall
make sense.
receiving a
Luna has
message that the
nothing to
original
do with her
prosecutor
life,
for this
besides
case
answering
chose to
Tony's
allocate
dreams.
their duties to another.
Counsel.
Regardless, that is no excuse to be late to court, Princess.
Just prosecutor will do, Your Honor. And I understand. My sincerest apologies. A
Why
colleague
would
of
they tell
mine had
anybody
something
it
they
was
wished to
her?
discuss with me, and so it delayed my arrival. Nevertheless, the prosecution
Yeah,
is
because
now
you're usually
prepared.
sleeping during daytime.
Very well.
So you're doing double shifts.
Princess Luna, huh? So she is an alicorn, just like Twilight. I suppose that makes sense,
Brody's
given that
favorite.
she's a princess and all. That name, though, it sounds familiar. Wait!
It was where Equestria's current rulers,
You
Princess
guys are lucky
Celestia
you
and
can
Luna,
get
used
all
to
those
live.
goddamn advertisements.
Oh, that's right!
I know.
She's
I've
one
tried
of
skipping all the
Equestria's
banners,
leaders.
but keep freaking showing up. And I hate
Just my
advertisements.
luck. How
They
am
ruin
I
YouTube.
supposed to keep up with the ruler of an
I
entire
don't care if people are
country?
like, oh, we make money. Get a freaking
Okay,
job.
relax. Just focus on the case. Still, something about her appearance. Have I seen her somewhere before? Hey, Twilight, Twilight? What's
She
wrong?
sucked.
Princess Luna? What are you doing here?
Ah, Twilight Sparkle. I heard that you would be assisting the defense today.
Heard? I think it's more likely that you found out during your nightly stroll. Am I right?
I should have expected you'd know.
She
You've
must have
always
drank a
been the
lot of
clever
coffee.
one.
What the heck are they talking about?
Nevertheless, Miss Sparkle, the reason I'm here is quite simple.
It is my duty to uphold the laws of Equestria.
Is it?
I am simply fulfilling that duty. Regardless of whom it is I may be
I mean, you're kind of
prosecuting,
just a spare.
be they adult or child, friend or foe, I plan to fulfill my responsibility to the fullest. But of course, being the
The
clever
entire
pony
fandom
that
has
you
always
are,
wondered if their hairs
I'm
are
sure you
liquid
could
or
have
a
guessed
solid.
that. Couldn't you?
Never got that answer.
Twilight?
As for you, Defense...
Huh? Me?
I must confess, I was hoping that the Blue Phoenix would stand against me.
Blue Phoenix?
His efforts
Phoenix,
during
right.
the TS5 case and the case from 2 days ago were certainly admirable, twice proving there was no murder in our peaceful country. So, imagine my surprise when I learned that you would be the lead on this case instead. You, whom I have only heard of in hearsay and whispers that began spreading after the trial in Manhattan. I look forward to seeing if you can hold yourself up to the same
It's all
standards
about
that the Blue
thighs and
Phoenix has
bowels.
set.
She never talks like
You'll
this.
see.
Only the
I
human
will
talks
live up to his
version of
example.
what they're talking about.
With Twilight by my side, Scootaloo and Turning Page are as good as free.
Is that so? Well, that's wonderful to hear.
And with that, let us resume this trial.
Her ego is a
Prosecutor
little bit bigger
Luna,
than usual.
you may make your opening statement.
At once, Your Honor.
All right, let's do this! Ready, Twilight? Twilight?
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
it's because she respects Luna and
Let's get this
Celestia a
started.
lot. Though she kind of respects Celestia like a mother, so...
Today's
This is gonna be hard
proceedings
for
shall
her.
center around the murder of Royal Order, who had just returned home from Canterlot the night he was killed. He was a member of the Royal Guard.
What? The guard's body was killed? Not just killed, he was murdered! What does this mean?
What is she? Pony Daddy.
Rest assured, my little ponies.
There it is! There it is!
That there is no cause for alarm. We anticipated this would be the public's reaction to this news. That is why we withheld this information until we had all the facts.
That's right. Private Eye mentioned something about keeping the victim's
Every time
identity a
there's a
secret
murder,
from the public.
it's usually
Looks like
not
that was
a
the right
murder,
call.
so-
Now that we have investigated this matter in full, we are ready to present
Well, I
the
like that it
truth
was just an
behind this
accident.
stallion's death to the court and the public. I will begin by submitting the victim's autopsy report.
The court accepts the report as evidence.
So what do you do with the corpse? They chop off the legs, make it into glue, or what?
The time of death is estimated to be on the evening of February 12th between 9:30 p.m., when the victim was last seen, and 10:30 p.m.,
Good thing you
when
wrote
the
that
body
down,
was
because there's no way in
discovered.
hell you
The coroner was able to confirm this during their examination of the body. Death came as the result of a single stab wound to the right side of the victim's head.
A single lethal strike, then.
It's not quite that simple, Your Honor. There was only one visible wound, but he appears to have been stabbed at least twice. Whether or not this was caused
same
by a
spot?
single weapon or multiple weapons is unclear. What we do know for certain is that the victim died instantly after just a single stab. All subsequent stabs the victim suffered were post-mortem.
In other words, the only thing we need to be concerned with is figuring out how the victim suffered his initial stab wound. That's what
Like I
killed
said,
him.
it's probably an
Additionally,
accident.
we discovered a large bruise on the left side of the victim's torso, indicating that he was struck by some sort of object. However, unlike the subsequent stab wounds, the victim received this bruise before he died.
I see.
What I'm still wondering
Yeah,
is,
how that happened.
why did the killer stab the victim in the head of all places? That's way too bizarre to not be important.
There's still one more point in this
I mean, I guess
autopsy
the police
report
have this
that
pretty weak.
confuses me, though.
I assume you are referring to the affliction the victim was suffering?
That's correct. This poison joke. I've done my research on Equestria, but I'm afraid my studies didn't quite cover this
Poison
topic.
joke does weird
There's no need to
effects
worry, Your Honor. I shall explain.
It's always
Poison
random.
joke is a rare type of flower, native only to the everfree forest. It is relatively harmless, but should one so much as touch the plant, they will be afflicted with a bizarre condition
I thought he had to
unique
release
to every
a
individual.
pollen.
Yeah, this is all stuff that Twilight mentioned yesterday.
In the case of Royal Order, the affliction he suffered was weak knees. Ironic that a member of the Royal Guard would be afflicted with a condition that makes it difficult to stand tall.
Hold it. Hold it.
Well, not everybody can stand.
As for the body
Forever.
itself,
Everybody
it
has
was
their limits.
discovered at the foot of the bridge leading to the castle of the two sisters. As you can see on this
Isn't that kinda weird
diagram,
because you used to
the
live
castle ruins lie at the very end of the path that cuts through the everfree
Zebra.
forest. We also have an
Only
additional
zebra in the
diagram
entire
here that
goddamn-
gives us a closer look at the crime scene itself. The X we've marked on here is representative of where the body was at the time of its discovery. Lastly,
Maybe he tripped
the
on
prosecution wishes to
something
submit
and,
this
he
photo of the
accidentally
crime
stabbed
scene to
himself
the
with a
court.
sword.
The victim's body had
Some people
already
can't be
been
that
removed for
stupid. Autopsy
by the time it was taken, but we laid out tape to mark its exact positioning.
Very well. The court accepts the diagrams and photo as evidence.
The ponies accused of committing this wretched crime are Turning Page, the son of the victim, and Scootaloo, a friend of Turning's.
It is rather difficult for me to believe that these two children would do something
Well,
like
I heard
this,
some
though.
kids killed
Not
them.
to mention the fact that one of the two
Everywhere
standing
in the world,
accused
so-
is the victim's own son.
Not too far-fetched.
It's certainly a rather tough pill to swallow, but I am certain
A lot of
that,
sick
in
people out
time, you will come to see that these two were the only ones capable of committing this crime.
You'd better have some pretty substantial
know-
evidence to back up your claims,
hung out with
Prosecutor
Scootaloo
Luna.
others before, so
These are children's lives at stake.
Trust me, Your Honor.
you should know that.
It brings me no pleasure to prosecute these young souls. However, justice must still be served. In the eyes of the law,
Yeah, she still
every
talks
pony
like
is
human,
equal.
Luna, more than pony.
Age is a non-issue. I trust that you, too, know this, and will remain impartial in your judgment.
Our world equal doesn't exist.
Certainly, Prosecutor Luna. That is the duty of a judge,
Unless they're in
after
a video
all.
game. And there.
I'm
and
glad to
everyone's
hear that, Your Honor.
Well then, defense, what is your stance regarding the charges filed against your clients?
Your Honor, we stand by our plea of not guilty. The defendants, Turning Page and Scootaloo, are both completely innocent of the charges filed against them.
And you need more info.
The court acknowledges the defense's position. Now then, let's hear from the prosecution's first witness.
Your Honor, the prosecution would like to call the detective in charge of this investigation, Private Eye, to the stand.
Very well.
All right. Private Eye's up first, then. Hopefully he doesn't say anything too damaging.
Yeah, as long as you get proof of everything, then everything should go fine.
Witness, please
That's
state
fine.
your name and occupation for the record.
My name is Private Eye, Princess. Detective. And might I say, good morning to everyone present. Princess Twilight, Miss Sykes, my lord.
Good morning.
Lord, huh? I could get used to that.
And we've already lost him.
The prosecution's first
Don't
course of
kiss up
action will be to make the actions of the victim clear to the court. Detective, please testify in regards to this matter.
At once, Your Highness.
Oh, I just realized Phoenix is right back there, right behind Rarity.
The victim, Royal Order, was stationed in Camelot until late afternoon on the day of his murder. After his shift ended, he boarded a train and arrived in Ponyville at around 9:15 that night. Upon his return home, he was informed of Turning's whereabouts and decided to head into the Everfree Forest to find him. When he arrived at the base of the bridge, in front of the castle of the two sisters, he was ambushed and murdered.
You assume.
Our investigation determined that Turning Page had gone off into the forest with Scootaloo that night for currently unknown reasons. We believe this is why the victim was in the forest that night.
I need a better chair.
He was trying to save his son.
I see. You'd certainly need a very good reason to be willing to head that far into the forest. If I
They were
recall
probably
correctly,
blackmailed
that place is filled
what's
with
her
all
name?
kinds of
Come on, baby, what's the name?
Dangerous creatures, isn't it?
It is indeed, Your Honor. Figuring out why the victim chose to go so far into the forest was one of the key questions we had during our investigation. It was the statement of one Miss Devotion that cleared the matter up for us.
Miss Devotion?
The victim's wife, Fair Devotion. She's a substitute teacher at the local schoolhouse. While her husband was away in Camelot, Miss Devotion would take care of her son all by herself.
That's one thing
This
that
on
could
top
use
of
me
her
behind.
demanding
They only
role
have
as a
one
teacher
school.
and member of the
That's
Ponyville School Board, you see.
She certainly sounds like a very kind, hard-working mare.
She was home when the victim
don't like
returned,
talking, do you, Luke?
and it was she who told him the turning page had gone into the forest that night.
So, the reason the victim went into the forest was to chase after his son?
That is what the evidence and statement currently point to, yes.
It's hard to argue against that. I guess in that case, I'll just see what other information I can draw out of Private Eye.
Now, Miss Sykes, you may begin your cross-examination.
I don't know anything about trials, I don't know what examination or any of this stuff is.
The victim, Royal Order, was stationed in Camelot until late afternoon on the day of his murder.
What was he doing there?
He was performing his routine duties as a guard. Nothing out of the ordinary.
What did those duties entail?
Monitoring doors, patrolling hallways, the standard fare.
So he was just your average, everyday guard?
I suppose you could say that, yes.
There was nothing special about his rank, his title, anything at all?
Well, as a detective, I can only know so much. What do you think, Princess Luna?
18% approval ratings. I'll give you 18% of my foot in your ass.
It's just as Detective Eye says.
I thought she fell asleep
As someone
there
who
for
gave
a
the
second.
victim his orders, I can say with certainty that there was nothing that set him apart from the other guards in our entourage. If you're looking for a motive defense, I'm sorry to say that you will not find it here.
Well, there you have it.
Why is
I
it
couldn't
always
ask for a clearer
the other
answer
side
than that.
always so smart?
Shoot. I was really hoping I would get something out of that. If he was just an ordinary guard, then that eliminates any potential
Right,
motive
isn't
that
the
could
point
be
of a
tied
trial
to his
is
rank.
to get the truth?
Still, though,
Not
the way
have, like,
Private Eye
disadvantage
shifted my question
both
to
sides.
Princess Luna, something still doesn't seem right here.
Defense, please stop staring at the witness and continue your cross-examination.
Yes! Sorry, Your Honor. I'll have to look into that later. Gotta continue pressing the detective for information now.
After his shift ended, he boarded a train and arrived in Ponyville at around a
I like
quarter
that
past
mirror,
9 that night.
that brown hair mare with the white bait. Little white.
How long had he stayed in Canterlot?
Nearly a month, according to our findings.
A month?
Royal Order often spent many weeks in Canterlot with little time to himself. Even when offered extended sabbaticals, he chose to forego them in service to the crown.
Yes, some
This
security
fellow
guards
seemed
have
like
to stay
quite
in certain
the
places
workaholic.
depending on the job.
Says the guy working on his vacation.
He was simply honor-bound to serving Equestria and maintaining harmony amongst its citizens. Whenever he wasn't on active duty, he spent all of his time with his family in Ponyville.
He certainly was the epitome of a royal guard's pony. His death will surely echo a great sense of loss for both his country and those close to him.
Yeah, especially the world's most boring
That's
country.
odd. That sounded a lot more
Boring
sorrowful
as
than
in
anything
how
I would expect from Private Eye.
The day he was murdered was no different than any of his other off-duty times. He returned to Ponyville to visit his family. According to our investigation into the ticket purchases and train schedules for February 12th, Royal's train arrived in Ponyville at a quarter past
I've never seen
9.
how ponies
He
use
then headed straight home,
human
arriving about
ones.
10 minutes later.
And what did the victim do once he got there?
Upon his return home, he was informed of Turning's whereabouts and decided to head into the Everfree
I
Forest
always
to
find it
find
weird how they have to repeat themselves. 'Cause I could never do that.
I need you to get a message to McKeith. Tell him to port here and distract the guards at the gate so I can get out.
Roger. Message for McKeith.
Yes, I'm McKeith. You need to tell an orc to guard a bar and irritate Lars up Jump the Boogie so that Louvre have mistake.
What?
So, it was Fair Devotion who told the victim that Turning Page had gone into the forest?
Indeed. We heard this from Miss Devotion herself.
And how did she know what her son was doing? I doubt she would have allowed Turning to go somewhere that dangerous.
During our investigation at the victim's house, we found a note written in Turning's handwriting confessing to his actions that night. Miss Devotion knew where her son had gone because of this note.
Like I said, he probably had...
Went to the Everfree Forest. Be back soon.
Paid off or something.
Succinct and straight to the point. Just what I would expect from Turning. If Miss Devotion was the one who discovered this note, why didn't she go after him as soon as she found it?
As you said yourself, the Everfree Forest is a dangerous place, especially after dark. She knew Royal Order would be coming home soon, so she decided to wait until the more able-bodied pony had arrived before attempting to follow after her son. According to Miss Devotion, when Royal Order offered to go find him, she insisted on going with her husband, but he told her to stay put. And she reluctantly complied, and watched him leave at around 9:30. That was the last time she ever saw him.
Ooh, that sounds rather ominous. Like something right out of a horror movie.
Did the victim make any stops on his way to the forest?
I beg your pardon?
I'm just wondering if it's possible that the victim went somewhere else before entering the Everfree Forest.
I'm afraid we neglected to look into this matter, so I cannot say anything for certain.
The forest entrance is roughly 20 minutes away from the victim's house. The crime scene is about 35 minutes away from the entrance. The body was discovered at 10:30 p.m. Do the math, attorney. Do you really think the victim could have dawdled before entering the forest?
Considering there was only 5 extra minutes to do something else, I highly doubt it.
Well, not so fast, Prosecutor Luna.
Twilight?
What is it, Miss Sparkle?
The victim was a unicorn, wasn't he? Did he, by any chance, know how to teleport?
That's right. I have to keep in mind that this is a world of magic. Not everything here follows the rules of my own world.
Detective, do you have the answer to Princess Twilight's question?
I do indeed, Your Highness. Royal Order was an incredibly gifted unicorn. Teleportation was just one of many spells he had long since mastered.
So, if he could teleport, then the time it would have taken the victim to travel between locations is irrelevant.
But do you know
Wouldn't you say?
You have a point. But, as I'm sure one as proficient in magic as yourself is aware, one cannot teleport to locations that they've never been.
You mean...
Oh, yeah.
We could not find any indication that the victim had ever been to the castle of the two sisters before this incident.
But he can
the best we could uncover were multiple instances of him and his son going to Froggy Bottom Bog to spar with the monsters that inhabit the area.
Froggy Bottom Bog, huh? I think I heard about that place yesterday. It's down the path that leads to the right from the crossroads, isn't it?
Quite so. You can see it here on the map we drew of the forest. If one were to walk to Froggy Bottom Bog, they would first have to travel to the crossroads to get there.
So that means he could at least teleport as far as the crossroads, right? He must have been there before when traveling to his sparring sessions. If so, then he may have teleported to the crossroads first and walked the rest of the way to the castle. This could make his travel time 30 minutes at most.
I suppose that's a reasonable assumption to make. Then, are you saying that between 9:30 and 10, the victim was off doing something else? His son had gone off into the Everfree Forest alone at night. Do you really think he'd waste time delaying his entrance into the forest? If anything, he would have used the extra half hour he had to search elsewhere in the woods. After all, it's not like he could have known exactly where his son was.
Yeah, that's true. It's kind of hard to believe that Royal Order would have risked his son's safety by taking a detour, given what we've heard about him so far. Twilight, any ideas?
Unfortunately, none. I didn't think this line of questioning was necessarily going to reveal anything case-breaking, but still, knowing that the victim had a half-hour period where he could act freely without heading to the crime scene, I think that might be something we'll want to keep in mind.
I agree. It might not be relevant, but you never know.
Miss Sykes! Miss Sparkle! If you aren't done whispering over there, then let's continue with the testimony.
Sorry, Your Honor. Private,
Why is
please
time of the
continue.
essence?
When he arrived at the base of the bridge, in front of the castle of the Two Sisters, he was ambushed and murdered.
You know, it would make more sense if he had the paper up and
He was ambushed?
written out one.
I believe so, yes.
I don't know if
What
very
led
many
you to
people
that
have that
conclusion?
perfect.
It was the bruise on the left side of his body. We believe that the assailant first delivered the blow to his torso in order to knock the victim to the ground. This was then followed up by at least 2 stabs to the head, the first of which must have killed the victim. If the victim had been on guard at the time, there isn't a chance some pony of his caliber would have been knocked down so easily. That is why we believe he was taken by surprise.
But walking through that
Maybe a
dark,
branch bell
dangerous
ended.
forest in the middle of the night, wouldn't the victim have been on guard regardless?
Perhaps. But you are forgetting something else, Miss Sykes. The victim was suffering from the effects of poison joke.
Weak knees!
Exactly. The poison joke caused the victim's legs to be weaker than normal. So, when his assailant struck him, even if he was completely on guard, it's hard to believe he wouldn't have been knocked to the ground.
I guess that's true.
That certainly seems to make sense.
The police have really
And
good
what
eyesight.
weapon are you
Could've been able to
proposing was
maneuver.
used to knock the victim down?
We believe it was the sword of the defendant, Turning Page, my lord.
One of the defendants has a sword?
A wooden one, Your Honor. No need to worry. I have it right here. The defendant has been known to carry this sword everywhere he goes.
That thing is
night
weak
was
as
no
hell.
different.
He can't say that.
According to our witness, when she last saw the defendant, his sword was still
It
in
is
one
kinda
piece.
cracked, so it looks like
Yet
he
the
hit something
sword
pretty
you
hard.
see now is broken. Turning Page's mother has also confirmed that his sword was undamaged earlier that day. The prosecution contends that the sword broke
Maybe
when it was
someone else
used to
took the
attack
sword
the
from
victim.
him.
I see. That's definitely a strong possibility.
Objection! Wait, hold on. That's not how the sword broke.
Oh?
Yes, it's true that the sword is broken right now, but that's because...
Objection!
Eh?
Before you explain it to us, defense, I would like you to tell us from where you learned this alternate interpretation.
From... where? Well, I guess it was from Turning Page.
Yeah.
From the defendant himself, in other words? Do you truly believe that story to be reliable in that case?
My kids are really good. Or kind
Unless
of
you have some proof to back up his story, I think you do well to keep it to yourself for now.
Huh?
I don't
For
like how
now?
Nuna's being.
In any case,
being
the prosecution recognizes
smug
that our
about
own evidence on the matter is circumstantial. More definitive evidence may yet prove our claim to be false. At the moment, however, this interpretation of the facts surrounding the sword is the most likely scenario.
The court agrees with the prosecution.
Don't
No!
you agree?
I know that's not how it happened. That sword broke when Turning used it to attack those blackmailing bullies. But unless I can find some proof of that, I'm not going to be able to convince anyone.
Yeah, you would have to talk to
this
Domitira, but I
sucks.
doubt she will.
If only I could get those two on the stand. One of them might have a bruise somewhere that I could point out. That'll have to wait until later, though. I had to finish this testimony first.
So I assume that this sword of the defendant's was also used to stab the victim?
It was not, Your Honor. There wasn't a single trace of blood on the sword. No forensic spell or potion could reveal even a single drop.
But then, what was used to stab the victim?
Oh boy, here it comes.
It was a possession belonging to the other defendant, Miss Scootaloo. She
Oh,
stabbed
that.
him using her scooter.
The scooter.
A scooter?
I mean, the point, it does kind of have a part.
How is that even possible? Scooters aren't sharp.
More likely she slipped in a
Not
foot
normally, my
line,
lord.
hit a tree and hit the
But
guy.
in this case, the scooter in question was broken.
Broken? How?
The left handlebar was snapped off, leaving behind a sharp, exposed bolt that could easily puncture a body.
You can
Yeah, that
see
would
it in
do
the photo I submitted earlier, Your Honor. The scooter was unquestionably at the scene. And I have it recorded right here that the bolt itself was covered
More
in blood.
likely he slipped.
When tested, we discovered that the blood was indeed the victim's.
What?
Albion Online is a sandbox MMORPG in which you write your own story instead of following a laid out
Order! Order, I say! I must admit, as unbelievable as it appeared to be at first, the more I listen, the more it seems like these two kids really did commit this crime.
More likely it was
As regrettable as it is to think so, the evidence certainly points to that conclusion.
The
victim arrived on the scene and was ambushed by his son, turning page. He used his sword to hit his father's left side. This attack caused the sword to break. Thanks to the poison joke affliction that the victim was suffering at the time, he couldn't resist the impact and was knocked to the ground.
Yeah, but what's the motivation?
At that point,
Why would a kid
the
want to
other
kill his own dad that
assailant,
he
Scooter
loves with all his
Lou,
heart?
rushed to the victim's side. She stabbed him in the head multiple times with a scooter before he could even react to what was happening.
Yes, that does seem to be what happened, given the evidence so far.
It's not exactly fair.
Wait a second. I think there might be a contradiction in the sequence of events. Although, I might be overthinking this. No, I have to be onto something here. Right?
Don't doubt yourself, Athena.
Twilight?
If you think there's a contradiction, then go for it. I'll be right here with you.
Alright.
Right. Thanks, Twilight. Your Honor, I would like what Private Eye just said to be added to his testimony.
Very well.
Did you fall asleep?
Detective, if you please.
How many years?
Certainly, my lord. The victim was knocked to the ground and then stabbed before he could even react.
Objection! Private Eye, there's a contradiction in your testimony.
Oh? Please, do tell.
Yes, enlighten us, defense. What is this supposed contradiction?
Right. It's written here in the autopsy report. Cause of death was a single stab wound to the right temple that caused immediate death, followed by at least one more post-mortem.
It does say that, yes, but I failed to see how this contradicts the witness's testimony.
Well, Your Honor, it's simple. If the victim was first knocked to the ground by a blow to his left side, as Private Eye claims, then tell me this. Which side of the victim's head would be facing up?
Well, that would be the left side.
Yeah, the left
side.
Yes.
Oh!
Exactly, Your Honor. The victim would land with the left side of his head facing up, meaning it would be impossible to stab him in the right temple.
Ah.
Order! Order! That's certainly a puzzling contradiction. The victim couldn't possibly have been stabbed in the right temple if he were in that position. Prosecutor Luna, any thoughts?
You certainly pose an interesting dilemma, defense. So, are you implying that the victim was first stabbed in the head and then hit in the torso? It would certainly help your case if you were. After all, a child would have a much more difficult time trying to stab a fully grown stallion in the head if he were standing up straight, even if one of them was a unicorn.
Is that what I'm implying here? Could the victim have been stabbed before he was struck?
That can't be it, Athena. Think back to the autopsy report one more time.
You're right, Twilight.
Well, Miss Sykes, is what the prosecution said true? Are you claiming that the victim was first stabbed and then struck?
They said he was struck first, then stabbed.
I'm not, Your Honor.
You aren't?
Intriguing. And why not, defense?
It says so right here in the autopsy report. The victim suffered a large bruise on the left side of his torso ante-mortem. He was hit before he was killed. Since the autopsy report notes that the victim was instantly killed by the first stab wounds, that means it would have been impossible for the victim to have been struck in the torso after he was stabbed.
Yep.
I did it! I'm in managed to find a flaw in the prosecution's case.
Way to go, Athena.
Let's see how the princess tries to get out of this one.
Prosecutor Luna, do you have an explanation for this seemingly unexplainable contradiction?
Probably will.
Of course I do.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Wait, what?
You can explain it? Then please share your theory with the court.
At once, Your Honor. As the defense has so eagerly demonstrated for us, the victim's autopsy report creates quite a few perplexing contradictions.
Right.
However, there are two explanations that can clear them all up.
Two?
The first is a rather simple one. After the victim was struck, he fell onto something sharp, and it pierced his head, killing him.
Okay.
The victim fell onto the murder weapon?
That makes sense.
Well, it might not be right to call it a murder weapon. After all, there's no proof to indicate that the assailant ever intended on killing the victim, should this be the case. And the crime scene was a forest, after all. Who knows what could be on the ground? All kinds of dangerous objects, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Indeed. This murder could very well have been an accident in that case. But then, wouldn't the object that took the victim's life still be at the scene? You would have found it there, wouldn't you?
Not if the culprit took it away in a panic or in fear.
And what about the blood on the scooter?
That could have been the result of our real culprit wishing to frame Miss Scootaloo for the crime. Even if it was an accident, the culprit still wouldn't want to be caught. They would likely fabricate a weapon to avoid their punishment. In truth, while the stab wound in question is quite similar in shape to the exposed bolt on the scooter, irregularities were discovered during the examination, which indicates that it's possible two different items could have stabbed the victim.
I see. Which would mean the culprit is...
Indeed, Your Honor. The evidence, as it stands, suggests that Turning Page was the one who knocked the victim over. On top of that, out of the two defendants, he's the only one who would benefit from making a fake weapon out of the scooter.
If that's the case,
then
everything would line up, wouldn't it?
What do you think, defense? Do you wish to argue that this was all an accident, perpetrated by Turning Page alone?
You're going up against the wrong person if you think you can manipulate me into saying what you want, princess. That being said, if I did argue that this was what happened, I could get Turning Page's sentence reduced significantly, and Scootaloo would be off the hook completely. Is that what I should do? Turning did say he'd be willing to take the blame for this, but...
Say that, you need more evidence.
Turning's looking at me.
Is
he trying to tell me to let him take the fall?
Because those two are
If
always
I do that, then...
Athena?
I'm not sure what to do here, Twilight. The way things are going, I could very easily get Scootaloo off the hook, and Turning a light prison sentence.
That would have everything turn out just as Turning asked back in the defendant lobby.
But I don't think I should do that. If I do, that'll just mean we're admitting that Turning killed his own father, even if only by accident. And that will undoubtedly have a severe effect on him. His family, his peers, they'd never look at him or treat him the same way again. It'd ruin his life.
Even so, Turning seems to be satisfied with that.
Well, I'm not. I don't care if he thinks it'd be a good thing to do, because it isn't. I'm supposed to look out for both his and Scootaloo's best interest, and him taking the blame isn't what she wants. So if Luna's got some sort of trap waiting for me, bring it on. I'll never admit that either of them had anything to do with Royal Order's death.
If that's the path you're going down, then don't you worry. I've got your back.
Thank you, Twilight.
Miss Sykes, if you're done whispering to your co-counsel, then tell us. Do you intend to argue that this murder was, in fact, an accident?
No, Your Honor. I do not.
You don't?
The defense's stance is simply this. We assert that neither Scootaloo nor Turning Page had any hand, or hoof, rather, in this murder.
I thought you might say that. How Ambitious of you, little golden pixie.
Golden pixie?
If that's the case, then you are admitting that the second explanation for our autopsy contradiction is the correct one?
Yes. Of course. As soon as I figure out what that is.
Not so confident, are you? Perhaps once we elucidate the matter, you'll see the folly of your actions. Private Eye, if you please.
At once, Princess. If the issue is merely in regards to the claim that the victim didn't have time to react before getting stabbed, then the solution is simple.
Is Mike Lee standing up for Utah families? He voted against putting a limit on what drug companies can charge for insulin. He
did react. When he was knocked over, he must have lifted his head to see who hit him. Once he did, his right temple would have been exposed, allowing the second assailant a chance to stab him there.
You're right. That does clear up the contradiction quite nicely.
Well then, there you have it. If the defense refuses to argue that this was an accident, then this is the only other possibility that fits the evidence.
This isn't good. Unless I can poke a hole in this theory, we're gonna be up a creek with no paddle. There must be something we're overlooking.
Excuse me, Golden Pixie.
Yeah?
I see you're straining yourself over there. No doubt desperately clawing for some sort of advantage in this argument.
Was it that obvious?
Unfortunately, I'm afraid you're not going to find one. Just look over the evidence again, and I'm sure you'll realize you're fighting on the wrong side of this debate.
What? I'm fighting on the wrong side? Why did Luna say that? Was that supposed to be a hint? Come on, think, Athena, think! Fighting on the wrong side.
Once you go
against on the wrong side. The evidence shows
you need
that
more
I'm
evidence. That's the main thing.
Fighting on the wrong. I've got it. Objection! Your Honor, there's no way the murder could have played out the way the prosecution is claiming it did.
Oh? How so, Miss Sykes?
Let's look back at the photo of the crime scene. Here, we can see an outline of the body as it was at the time of the discovery.
They took a picture of it.
Looking at it, don't you find it to be a little odd?
Oh, he's on his left side.
Odd? What do you mean? The victim is on his side, just as the prosecution claimed.
Yes, but think back to the earlier theory. The victim was hit on the left side of his torso and was knocked to the ground. Now, if he was hit on the left side, then his right side should have been what hit the ground, right?
Yes, I suppose so.
It doesn't always work that way.
And yet, in this photo, we can clearly see the victim fell on his left side.
Oh! You're right! Order! Order! Prosecutor Luna, do you have an explanation for this? This completely overturns your entire case!
Quite literally, in fact.
You aren't fazed by it?
I'm afraid not, Your Honor. Sorry to disappoint you.
So then, do you have an explanation for this after all?
Perhaps we should allow the one who brought this to our attention an opportunity to explain it first.
Me?
Who else?
I don't know. I just pointed out the contradiction.
I
hadn't really thought about what it means yet.
One thing it could mean, Prosecutor Luna, is that the police made a mistake when they were outlining the body.
I assure you, no mistakes were made. I saw to the removal of the body myself. The tape outline was made around the body just before it was removed. Private Eye can confirm this, as he was also there at the time.
Yeah, best.
Yes. The tape was laid down before the body was moved. There's no chance it was a mistake on our part.
If that's the case, then this contradiction eliminates the possibility of this being an accidental killing. The victim couldn't have fallen on something if he ended up with his stabbed side facing towards the sky.
Indeed. And what else?
Well...
Oh, I think I've got it. It would also mean that the body itself had to have been moved, right?
How so?
If the side of his body that was hit somehow ended up facing the ground, it would mean that whoever killed him must have moved the body from somewhere else and placed it down incorrectly. I don't know if that was by accident or on purpose, but the body had to have been moved.
And why couldn't the explanation be as simple as the victim himself having rolled over after being hit? Or having his feet swept out from under him, causing him to fall on his left side?
Because if he really did land on his right side after being hit, and then rolled over, he would have ended up facing away from his attacker, regardless of which direction he rolled. I doubt he would have wanted to let them out of his sight.
As for why the assailant couldn't have swept out his knees, the autopsy report doesn't mention anything about the victim's knees being injured. Even if they were weak at the time, some bruise or mark would have been left behind if they were hit with enough force to topple him over.
There's no doubt that the victim must have fallen over when he was hit. His legs were far too weak to support him after suffering the blow to his side.
So, how's that for an answer, Prosecutor Luna? The victim's body was moved after he was killed. That's the only way he could have ended up being found with the left side of his body facing the ground.
Yes.
The only way? Are you sure about that?
Ay caramba. What now?
I think you are forgetting one last possibility.
And what would that be, Prosecutor Luna?
First, let's review what we've uncovered so far. We know that the victim was struck on his left side, which undoubtedly caused him to fall on his right side. However, when the body was discovered, the victim was found to have fallen on his left side. Between the time the victim fell over and the time the body was discovered, the victim must have moved to account for this change in positioning.
Exactly. The culprit, after killing the victim, moved the body.
That's not necessarily the case, Golden Pixie.
Why are you nicknamed?
What do you mean?
Undoubtedly, the victim was knocked over after he was hit. But who's to say that's also when he died?
You mean?
Yes, I do. The victim was not stabbed when he was knocked to the ground. Instead, after he was knocked over, he managed to stand himself back up. After an unspecified amount of time, he was then stabbed in the right temple, which caused him to fall over onto his left side.
You guys like work? Still, like I said, you need
Order in the court! After hearing both the prosecution and defense's claims, I believe I must side with the prosecution's stance.
What? But why?
Your theory of the body being moved, while plausible, simply lacks enough evidence to back it up, and leaves too many questions unanswered. If the body was moved, who moved it, why, and from where?
Those are all, really good questions, Your Honor.
Oh, why thank you, Miss Sykes. I have been doing this for quite some time, you know.
If you wish to pursue the theory of the body having been moved, you'll need to first disprove that he was killed at the castle ruins. All of the evidence presented in the trial so far points towards the likelihood of the murder occurring there. Furthermore, nothing was missing from the crime scene to suggest that the murder may have occurred elsewhere. Right, defense?
There it is again. She's hinting at something. What does she want me to see? Something missing from the crime scene? Everything's here, isn't it? The scooter that stabbed the victim, the body itself, Wait a second. The body that was stabbed is there, but there's something else that should be there but isn't. This is it! Your Honor, the defense has evidence to counter the prosecution's claims.
Then please show it to us, Miss Sykes.
Look at this photo one more time. There's a grave contradiction contained within it.
A contradiction? Where?
Right here, Your Honor. Take that! Look at the area near the head of the victim.
Oh, the grass is up.
If we go by the prosecution's theory, then the victim would have fallen in the place he was stabbed. However, if that was the case, Then there should be a pool of blood around the victim's head.
That.
Yes, there should be.
But looking at this picture, what do you see?
The grass is perfectly clean.
There's no blood at all!
And that's precisely the significant contradiction in that photo, Your Honor. An area that should be caked in blood has no trace of it whatsoever.
Unless they cleaned up the need, like, Coca-Cola.
If the crime scene lacks even a drop of blood to speak of, that casts significant doubt over whether the victim was stabbed there at all.
Indeed it does, Miss Sykes.
So, how could this be the case, you might ask? The answer is obvious. The victim's body was moved from somewhere else to the castle ruins. That's the only possibility.
Interesting claim, Golden Pixie. And you sounded so
off
triumphant while making it, too. It's a shame that it's completely flawed.
Explained a lot for Luna.
Flawed? How?
True, there doesn't appear to be any blood on the scene right now. But once I bring my next witness to the stand, that tune of yours will surely change.
This other witness. Time to see if it's who I think it is.
Very well. Detective, you may leave the stand, but please remain in the courtroom. We may need your opinion on other matters as they come up.
Of course, my lord.
A few more.
Now then, let the prosecution's next witness take the stand.
Witness, please state your name and occupation for the record.
Is she gonna rhyme
My
the whole
name
time?
is Zakora, an apothecary. I make my home in the Everfree.
You live in the Everfree Forest?
You're
only
a
one who will.
zebra?
Oh, right. I guess I forgot to mention that,
And we
didn't
never
I?
get to see her home in
You and Apple Bloom both.
And you say you're an apothecary?
Yes, Your Honor, I am indeed. Crafting potions is my creed. The forest creatures are bizarre, but their wonders are unmatched by far.
Interesting.
That must have been hard.
I just noticed that she's rhyming. Oh boy.
To rhyme.
I really hope that this doesn't mean what I think it might.
Let's get back on topic, shall we? Witness, is it true that, on the night of the murder, you were the one who discovered and reported the victim's body?
Yes, quite sadly this is true. It was a scene most gruesome too.
Then please, give us your testimony in relation to this gruesome discovery.
Of course, Your Honor, I shall speak. I'm sorry for this tale is bleak. That evening, I was tending to the plants near my home. Two little ponies passed, heading towards the castle dome. For a while I waited, but return they did not, so I chose to head home at an agile trot. But soon I heard a strange far-off sound. I ran to where those ponies were bound. On my way, a small shadow my eyes did track, but it jumped away before I could react. Upon arrival, what met my gaze I'll not forget for all my days. A pony's body, still with blood around his head, turning earth to mud. Once I was sure that he was dead, to the police I quickly fled.
Alright, so where's the blood? Or where did you find it?
Cut me a break already? It's hard enough sifting through testimonies without having to decipher them first.
It must have been horrifying to see a dead body that night. But if the Everfree Forest is as dangerous as you say it is,
or someone dies every day,
wouldn't bodies be a common sight?
Most creatures are clean with the food they hunt, but a corpse in the open? A surprise, to be blunt.
You saw blood on the ground around the body?
Of all the life that he had bled, a ring of red lay around his head.
Objection! That's impossible! We checked the area ourselves. Even this photograph shows there was no traces of blood. Your testimony is completely contradictory.
Do not point your rage at me. I have told you all I've seen.
Perhaps I can shed some light on this matter.
Do you have something that can explain this contradiction, Prosecutor Luna?
Of course, Your Honor. I'd look rather silly if I didn't.
Very well. Please explain for us.
As was just stated, this witness was the one who reported the body to the police. She accompanied them to the crime scene, and they found it in exactly the same state as she just described, the victim lying in a pool of his own blood. I have here a photograph of that very scene.
There we go.
You're right. The victim does appear to be lying in a pool of blood.
Bigger than usual.
Why was it gone the next day?
That will become clear soon enough. First, the prosecution would like to submit this evidence to the court, along with this photograph.
And what is this?
It's a cape, Your Honor. The emblem on it denotes it as belonging to the Cutie Mark Crusaders, the group of which the defendant, Scootaloo, is a member.
That must be the third cape that Private Eye said the police had taken for examination.
As you can see in this earlier photograph, 2 more of these capes, as well as the fabric used to line their undersides, laid in this wagon attached to the scooter. It likely goes without saying, but this wagon also belongs to Scootaloo.
Great Wickering Stallions! Just what were the defendants up to in that forest?
We'll cover that in a moment. For now, I would like to draw further attention to this cape here. Upon testing it, we found that it was absolutely drenched in the victim's blood. What?
The cape was covered in blood?
You mean someone tried to clean up the crime scene?
I can't imagine that to be the case. Going by where this cape was found, I'd say there's another more likely possibility.
Where was it found?
This cape was discovered underneath the victim's body. Specifically, under his head.
You mean that pool of blood Zecora saw?
It appears as though the little golden pixie has figured it out. When the police went to examine the blood, they discovered that it wasn't blood at all. It was actually this cape right here.
Okay.
So,
maybe they were trying to keep us from playing
track all along. Looks like it. Yup.
Now do you understand, defense? When the victim fell to the ground after being stabbed, he must have fallen on top of this cape.
Or
any blood that seeped from his wound would have trailed down his face and been absorbed by the cloth. When the witness came across it, she mistook the cape for blood due to its red color. The fact that there was no blood at the scene is completely irrelevant. After all, it was the police themselves who removed it.
No! This can't be right.
Dragging things out like this for those 2 children is just cruel. Even if they're guilty, why can't the lawyers see that?
Order! Order! My word! It seems as if the defense's argument has been completely overturned.
Indeed it has, Your Honor. Despite what they claimed, it's clear that the body was never moved. The scene of the crime was undoubtedly at the foot of the bridge. The blood on this cape proves it. And, as luck would have it, I have one more piece of information that will crush the defense's rebuttal once and for all.
No, please, no more.
Upon examining the area where the cape lay, thanks to forensic spell testing, we discovered traces of blood underneath the area around the victim's head.
Really?
It seems as if the cape absorbed more blood than it could handle, and some of it leaked through to the ground below. Further testing of this blood revealed that it belonged to the victim. Your Honor, I submit to you the photo of the victim's body, as well as the blood-stained cape as evidence.
Very well. The court accepts them.
Like I said, it kind of looks like they were trying to save him. Probably like an accident. Do their best to keep him bleeding out.
Defense, care to share your thoughts on the matter?
Not if I don't want to get held in contempt of court.
It seems the Golden Pixie has been rendered speechless in the face of such irrefutable evidence.
Is Golden Pixie supposed to be a supplement or an insult?
Ignore her. Ignore everyone, okay? I'm not gonna lose. Time to get my brain in gear. There has to be something off in her theory. Luna's saying that the body was never moved. The reason there was no blood at the scene is because it was absorbed by the cape. In that case, the victim would have stood up after being knocked over by turning. Afterwards, Scootaloo hit him in the head with the scooter, which knocked him to the ground again. Is there anything wrong with that series of events? Wait a second. If the victim was standing up when he was stabbed, then wouldn't it be impossible for—
Miss Sykes! Do you, or do you not, have any objections to the prosecutor's theory?
You bet I do.
Feigning confidence will get you nowhere, defense.
Objection! Your Honor, the defense would like to point out a flaw in the prosecution's theory.
Then get on with it!
Yes, Your Honor. The issue has to do with the victim's fatal stab wound being inflicted while the victim was standing upright. I would think stabbing an adult at such a height would be nearly impossible for a child. Correct?
Objection! You forget that the owner of that scooter is a Pegasus. What's stopping you from simply flying up and stabbing him that way?
Funny you should mention that. I heard something from the defendant in question yesterday that clears up this matter. Namely, the fact that Miss Scootaloo can't fly.
What?
Yeah, she's a handicap.
Order! Order! Prosecutor Luna, is this true? If Miss Scootaloo can't fly, then there's no way she could have stabbed a stallion in the head while he was standing.
If she was on the scooter, she probably could.
Can I take you by surprise at least once in this trial?
What the defense has said is absolutely true. I have the medical report from Scootaloo's doctor right here. Contrary to Pegasus Filly's her age, her wings haven't fully developed yet, and thus, she cannot
she
fly.
never will fly.
But if you knew that, then why were you arguing that she could have stabbed somewhere she couldn't even reach?
Now, when did I ever claim that? All I ever claimed was that some pony stabbed him whilst he was standing upright. If it was impossible for Scootaloo to have done so, then that leaves only one option, doesn't it?
Uh-oh.
Turning Page is a talented unicorn for his age, and levitation is a relatively simple spell to learn, even for colts and fillies. I'm sure he'd have no problem levitating the scooter up to his father's head and stabbing him with it.
Objection! Princess Luna, if you choose to claim that, then Scootaloo would have done nothing wrong. Am I right?
Princess Twilight, please explain what you mean.
It's simple, Your Honor. If Turning Page was the one who assaulted his father, and then proceeded to stab him in the head with the scooter, then Scootaloo would be completely innocent. Nothing but a bystander at most. Am I right, Princess Luna?
Yeah, but you're putting all the blame on him.
We shall see. First, I think it's time for the defense's cross-examination of our witness. We've been putting that off for long enough now.
Yeah. I kind of forgot that Zecora was even here.
Very well. Let us begin the cross-examination.
I'll stop at the 120 mark.
That evening, I was tending to the plants near my home.
Hold it! You were tending to plants?
Yes, my plants must grow up strong, lest the potion turn out wrong.
Including that poison joke in front of your home?
Yes, they're blooming but not quite grown, since only recently they were sown.
Are these plants of yours hard to
there's
find?
Also a garden.
Many flowers around my
wild
home
garden.
can't grow without the forest loam. They're so rare that to meet my needs, I search the forest for their seeds. I tend to them both day and night, and harvest them when the time is right. But poison joke differs. It's often seen in a sproul. but at this time of year, it hardly grows at all.
Then how
So you scour the forest for plants. Did you happen to do that on the day of the murder?
I searched quite long that day. From dawn to dusk, I was away. When I got home with the seeds I sought, I tended to my garden plot.
Did you happen to visit the castle of the two sisters that day?
Yes, for along that castle's cliffside, sometimes rare flowers peek and hide. Sadly, when my search was done, I left without finding a single one.
Just to confirm, the body didn't happen to be at the foot of the bridge at that time. Did it?
I understand what you mean to say, but no, the body wasn't there that day.
We already know when the victim died. It was long after this witness was scouring the area for plants. Stop wasting our time with these pointless questions and move on.
Well, at least I got some information. Not exactly sure how helpful it was, though.
Please, continue, witness.
Two little ponies passed, heading towards the castle dome.
Hold it! Did you happen to see who they were?
Of the colt I had no clue, but the filly was Miss Scootaloo.
So you saw the children walking through the forest that night?
It surely was a curious sight. Two foals traveling solo that night. The forest danger is well known, so I thought, what are they doing alone?
They were going to settle the blackmail with Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon. But I can't bring that up yet. It'll just be rejected outright.
These two ponies. Was there anything about them that caught your eye?
Scootaloo looked frightened, but that wasn't so strange. The forest scares any pony of any age. The colt was holding something thick, but not with his hooves, but with magic.
And what was that?
It was a bolt of fabric, rolled. The moonlight showed that it was gold.
That checks out with what Scootaloo said yesterday. How Turning Page offered to carry it for her just in case.
This matches what we found at the crime scene, as there was a roll of golden silk left behind in the wagon.
It would seem that way.
He also carried a weapon, a sword of solid wood. Given where they were going, I thought this was good.
And I'm assuming this sword was in one piece. Am I right?
Indeed. There wasn't a single crack. The sword appeared fully intact.
So the defendant's sword really was whole while heading to the scene.
And it then broke when he used it to attack the victim.
Indeed. That's seeming more and more likely.
At some point here, I need to counter with...
Alright, pause it right here. That's about the halfway mark. So the trail's looking pretty innocent. It kind of looks like my theory is right that they didn't have the poison joke growing yet. It's weird because in the show those things grow like wildfire. Kind of like poison needles or whatever. Something needle. I remember like in Washington State, I lived in a swampy area and we had those needle things. As a kid I used to play around and buy them. When sometimes I accidentally fall in them and it hurts like hell. Because the leaves have these like little sharp needles on them that penetrate skin like it's nothing. And it smells like a bee sting. It really hurts. So, my reaction to part 1 of case 2, episode 3. Is getting this? Yeah, have a nice day.